You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
In 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded about 74 seconds after takeoff, killing all 7 astronauts inside. Or did it? It turns out that 6 of the 7 are still alive and kicking today. Ellison Onizuka claims to be his identical twin brother, Claude. Yeah, I've got an identical twin brother, Claude, too. The Challenger pilot, Mickey Smith, hasn't even bothered changing his name. He's now Professor Michael J. Smith of University of Wisconsin. Now, Krista McAuliffe was a bit of a sneaky one. She was the Challenger payload specialist, quite famous for being a teacher. It turns out during her astronaut days she was using her middle name, Krista, and now she goes by her first name, Sharon. The Challenger commander, Francis Richard Scobie, is now Dick Scobie, which sounds like a rather unpleasant disease. Judith Resnick, the Challenger mission specialist, again hasn't even bothered changing her name. She's a professor at Yale Law. And finally, Ronald McNair, another Challenger mission specialist, claims to be his identical twin brother, Carl McNair. What are the odds?
So there I was, just minding my own business, looking at Google Earth, and this big, snow-covered monstrosity is staring me in the face like, why is that covered in snow? So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Well, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. The only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah. So, I got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project? I think I found out where Mars is, guys.
At some point in the future, we're going to look back and say, how did we do it without space?
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belt, an area of dangerous radiation. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
There's a small problem with going to the moon, and inch by inch, NASA is leaking out that they know that there's a problem there. It's called the Van Allen belts, high radiation belts of charged particles around Earth, and we don't know how to get through them, they say. Well, isn't that interesting, because there sure didn't seem to be a problem back in 1969.
The moon landing stopped in 1972 and we haven't been back. We haven't been beyond the Van Allen belts.
NASA admitted that it had lost
lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
To YouTube and watch A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. It contains newly discovered evidence, which is part of the missing tapes, of outtakes from the first mission to the moon, of them falsifying a shot of being halfway to the moon. For NASA to come out and say that all the tapes were erased, I mean, it's incredible. Geraldo, this isn't just one tape. This is rooms of tape labeled Apollo 11 moon landing. Someone had to physically go and erase it. It's very challenging to try to prove we landed on the moon, and it shouldn't be challenging. The tape should be there. There should be plenty of evidence.
I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. People who believe they saw the landing on the moon because they heard it on the radio.
All of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
My research of the last year has led me to the conclusion that not even low Earth orbit is possible, that the International Space Station is a hoax, and all manned space travel is fake.
There's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft.
Did you see it in the background? There was a guy in the background, man. I'm not kidding you. You can't deny that that's someone in the background. There's a guy moving in the background.
Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair? See the hair?
And they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Armstrong, Bart Sibrel, ABC Digital. Wanted to give you the opportunity to swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. Will you put your left hand on the Bible and swear to God that you walked on the moon? You have $5,000 cash. You can give it to charity if you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. I have the tape.
It'd be fine.
Why don't you swear to... Why not? Why won't you do it?
The Earth supposedly 23.4 degrees on its axis. And that leaves you, of course, the occultic number, again, 66.6 degrees off. Well, Earth is supposedly orbiting around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour.
So why would the moon landing be fake? So back in the day, America really wanted to get to the moon first. They wanted to beat all the other countries. But technically, they didn't really have the technology to quite do that yet. So instead, they created it on a soundstage, and they filmed it, and they were like, hey, guess what? We were here first. And here's some of the reasons why people think it was fake. Number one, when they put the American flag in the moon, the flag started waving. But on the moon, there's no air in the atmosphere, so there's no wind. So technically, the flag would not fucking wave, but it was waving as if there was air. Check it out. Hello? That was fucking air. So why would the moon landing be fake? So back in the day, America really wanted to get to the moon first. They wanted to beat all the other countries. But technically, they didn't really have the technology to quite do that yet. So instead, they created it on a soundstage, and they filmed it, and they were like, hey, guess what? We were here first. And here's some of the reasons why people think it was fake. Number one, when they put the American flag in the moon, the flag started waving. But on the moon, there's no air in the atmosphere, so there's no wind. So technically, the flag would not fucking wave, but it was waving as if there was air. Check it out. Hello? That was fucking air.
We're shown that and told that's the solar system, that's the way it looks. You've got the big sun in the middle and all the planets revolve around it, but nobody's ever seen that. We've never seen a photograph of it. CNI and the square of compasses. And we have Buzz Aldrin, the second man, supposedly that walked on the grey dust of cubic stones there. Show it off, they don't try and hide it, it's amazing. There's his Masonic ring, he's got his Shriner hat there. And these guys, yeah, they're supposedly praying to the command module. Looks like a pyramid to me. The connections between, well, here you go. Jack Parsons, the JPL was how obviously NASA got into, got into the air in the first place, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Here's Jack Parsons at a Masonic ceremony, you can tell by the floor. And again, you can look into this for yourself. Yeah, it's easily searchable. It's easily researchable information. The connection between Walt and Disney. Here we have aboard the ISS. Again, now we're getting into the handshakes. We've got Baphomet all doing it. Yeah, we've seen Bill Clinton do that and Bush and all these guys do that. We know what that means. We know who they're in service to. This is all about occultism. It's all about sun worship. Heliocentrism. It's not science. It's a religion. It's faith. This is Helios. This is Helios, the sun god. And here it is on the badge of Apollo 13. This is all occult religion going all the way back to all Egypt and then back through to Babylon as well.
Let's get back to our Earth. Every object that disappears at the horizon ends up beneath Earth's curvature. This is what conventional science says by daddy's mouth to the child that faces the sea for the first time. But it's not true. With an optical zoom, the figure that had disappeared on the horizon gets right back on sight. This is simply because the disappearance is not due to the curvature, but because our sight is limited by the point of dispersion of perspective, over which an object gets progressively erased by our optical horizon. If the curvature of Earth was, as they tell us, 8 inches per mile square the distance, we could calculate with this graph the length of the curvature at any given distance. For example, a distance of 118 miles should give a curvature of 1.74 miles, but if this was so, how can we see from Ventimiglia Mount Cinto in Corsica, tall 1.71 miles? The point of observation is at sea level, and the distance between this plaza in Ventimiglia and the tip on Mount Cinto is exactly 118 miles. If Earth was curved, we could only be able to see land taller than 1.74 miles, but we are able to see the entire Corsica's outline, from tip to coast, unexplainable on the spherical model. The web is full of experiments like this. How is this site possible? Before accusing researchers of doing mass destruction, we gotta fix this problem. For the laws of perspective, the horizontal lines intersect at the vanishing point, forming a triangle that comprehends all of our possible line in sight. We don't see like this, but like this. Over our visual horizon, everything disappears, just like the sun, like these buildings that will look as smaller and collapsed as they get over our perspective horizon. Obviously not because Earth is a sphere. If the collapsing of the buildings was due to Earth's curvature, we couldn't see them straight, but with an inclination. But it isn't so. The curvature is not there, in fact it's not observable, it's not contemplated in the real world, and constructions engineers know that very well, since they never mention it in any calculation making big constructions. A geometer and engineer with 30 years of experience published on the Birmingham Weekly, "All our locomotives